Alright YouTube, so we are back with something a bit different today. We try to switch up the content here and there, so it's not always just about Remake. And today we're here to actually talk about Final Fantasy 16, and whether or not it's getting close to being revealed. Lately we've been doing a lot of discussion videos for Remake, so I went over to Audrey's Twitter just to see if there's anything kind of official that I might have missed out on, and I came across this tweet. Obviously, before we even get into it, the first thing that needs to be mentioned is that anybody could create a Twitter account, anybody could attempt to fake this, but there are actually some key pieces of evidence that point towards this being legit. The main piece of evidence that we have is if you're trying to recover the password for this particular account, if you ever had to do that with a Twitter account, it'll ask if you want to send a text to the phone number attached to the account or an email to the recovery email address. And in this particular case, we're looking at the recovery email. And the way it works is if you go over to Twitter and you go to log in, click on forgot password, it'll ask you for the email, the username, or the phone number. And if you use the username, which is ff16_JP, and you'll see this right here. And again, we're just interested in the email address. And at first, there's a lot of covered up letters and numbers. So it seems like it'd be kind of hard to guess what it says, but it's actually pretty simple. The first part would be fantasy, probably 16, since it's a Final Fantasy 16 account. And the email address itself is at square-enix.com. Square-enix.com is the email address that they use pretty much all the time. I think any type of email you get from them will usually be from that email address. So for example, right here is just a random email I screenshotted that I got from them whenever I was playing some Final Fantasy 14. But if you look at the bottom, you can see square-enix.com. So I actually wanted to test this method with another account. There's another Final Fantasy 16 account that's created in December 2016. So kind of right after the release of Final Fantasy 15. But if you tried this same method, this is what you see. The recovery email for this account is clearly somebody@gmail.com. So this was obviously a fan-made account. It's not an official Square Enix account. There's also another Final Fantasy 16 account that appears to be the English version, and it, oddly enough, was created this month as well, just like the Japanese one we looked at earlier that has the Square Enix recovery email. Difference is, if you test this method out on this account, it's not a Square Enix recovery email. It's another somebody@gmail.com account, which tells me that this was created pretty recently, probably today in response to the Japanese account kind of gaining popularity. People are starting to talk about it. The only thing that really kind of breaks this is whether or not it's possible for anybody to create a square-enix.com account. Whenever I try to look up creating a Square Enix email account, it just kind of redirects you to trying to create a Square Enix account on their website. So I don't think it's possible for any, I don't know if I can go out there and create a dashingdavid@square-enix.com account. It doesn't seem like that's a possibility. And if that's not a possibility, then this is literally confirmation. But if that is a possibility, and maybe some of you out there know whether or not it is, then that kind of throws it up in the air about whether or not it's legit. But even if that is a possibility, I don't think somebody creating a Final Fantasy 16 fake account would have the foresight to use a recovery email that makes it look like it's a Square Enix email. I don't think somebody would think anybody would try to do a recovery email to make sure the emails match up and shit. I don't think somebody would think of that. They would just use their Gmail or their Yahoo or something. And that's why I personally think it's legit. Plus, it's long overdue, right? Final Fantasy 15 came out 4 goddamn years ago. They've had to have been working on Final Fantasy 16 at least around the time the game came out or sometime before. Somebody also pointed out in Audrey's replies that apparently Sony has a couple of private videos that just kind of came out of nowhere, as if they're trying to gear up to reveal something. The thing I wasn't sure of is what they mean by private videos and Sony, because I'm assuming they mean YouTube, but if you search Sony on YouTube, it pulls up the PlayStation account. If you go to the playlist section of the PlayStation account, there's literally fucking hundreds or thousands of playlists. I'm not going to scroll through all that. I mean, it's like a playlist for damn near every game they've ever released. But apparently there is a private playlist somewhere, or maybe they already deleted it. That's why I couldn't really track it down, because when I scrolled through the playlist for a while, there wasn't anything that was privated. I don't know, man. To me, it definitely looks like they're doing something with Final Fantasy 16. Again, the biggest thing for me is the recovery email. You can check a couple of different fake accounts, and they're Gmails and Yahoos and shit. But this one particular account is definitely a square-enix.com email. So take from that what you will. I definitely think that the game will be revealed relatively soon. Probably this year. Probably, I think Tokyo Game Show is kind of coming up somewhat soonish. I don't know how much we're going to cover Final Fantasy 16. It's definitely a game I'll get. I've played pretty much every numbered entry of the Final Fantasy series. So it's something I'll play. I'll definitely probably do some sort of a review on it. But we might actually create content on it if that's something you guys are interested in. But of course I want to pass off to you guys. What are your thoughts on this? Because we don't really have much evidence. At the end of the day, it is just a Twitter account. But I think the evidence that we have is substantial. Leave your thoughts and more in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and subscribe to more Final Fantasy 16 content. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @dashingdavid. And my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought. but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain or leave it like Cobain.